This is good stuff. The last couple of weeks we've dived into some Old Testament stories, and some are not traditionally nice. And so I want to keep up the run here. I'm on a roll of some exciting, unique stories. And so today I'm going to cover a couple of them, or at least one that's kind of, so we're going to, just to warn you it's coming, all right? But the Old Testament is filled with wild stories, God's grace stories, and a lot of history that we don't, maybe we don't know about. So I want to start today by giving you some Bible facts. Don't know if you know any of these, but I thought I'd just kind of tease you with some fun data versus sermonizing. So here we go. Methuselah. Here's some facts you may not know. This guy lived, according to the Bible, 969 years. That's one old dude. All right? Just so you know, you can look it up later if you're interested. Some guy was spoken to by a donkey. All right? We're going to actually talk about him today. That'll be fun. Hopefully we'll get to it. We'll see. There was a bed measuring 13 and a half feet long and 6 feet wide in Deuteronomy 3:11. That's a big bed. Okay? All right. The sun standing still for a whole day happened in Joshua 10:13. An army with 700 left-handed men. A whole army. And they were the best of the best of the best. They could slingshot, and I think the scripture says, if a hare was standing, they'd hit the hare every time. Incredible marksman. You can look it up yourself. There's a man whose hair weighed about 6 pounds when it was cut annually. That's a lot of hair and really heavy. So I don't know what he was eating. A lot of iron? Who knows? All right. There's a man who had 12 fingers and 12 toes. That's pretty wild. An army of 185,000 destroyed in one night in Isaiah 37:36. There was a man whose life was increased by 15 years in answer to a prayer. So let's start praying, dear Lord. A day the sun went backwards was in Isaiah 38:8. And lastly, a prostitute was an ancestor of Christ. Isn't that weird? Right in the lineage of Jesus Christ, 4 women are mentioned. One of them was a prostitute, all in the line of Christ. Okay, ever hear there are some bad Bibles out there? There really is. There's some that have weird ways of paraphrasing and translating, and I got to make a quick point, because last week I said something to the effect, don't use just one translation. Well, it's better than that. A real translation is the Greek and Hebrew, Aramaic language translated into English, like translated. Then you have paraphrases, which are phrases and they explain the stuff out. The NIV is like a paraphrase. The Message is a complete paraphrase. And so there are different versions you can look at and glean insight from. History is filled with tons of them, but I want to show you 4 you've never heard of. The first one's called the Placemaker's Bible. The second edition of the Geneva Bible, published in 1562. This particular Bible is known for this because it made a big mistake. When it said in Matthew 5:9, blessed are the peacemakers, they misspelt it, called the placemakers. Yep. Then we have the Wicked Bible. Can you believe that? It's called the Wicked Bible. The Wicked Bible is a 1631 edition of the King James Bible. In Exodus 20, verse 14, the word not was left out. This changed the 7th commandment to read, thou shalt commit adultery. Wow, bad. Most of the copies were recalled immediately and destroyed on the orders of Charles I, but there are 11 copies still remaining. They are known as the Wicked Bible. Crazy, huh? The Synod Bible. 1716, the Synod Bible, the King James Version. So, by the way, those who are King James only folks. All right, I'm just kidding. John 18 should read, go and sin no more. However, the printer accidentally inverted the N and the O in the word to on. So it read, go and sin on more. A grace Bible, right? Bad, just kidding. And lastly, we have the Fool Bible from 1763. The Fool Bible. The guy who did this, printed it, had to pay a huge fine, 3,000 pounds back then. So that's like serious fine for an inadvertent printer's error, which he made in Psalm 14:1. There he printed, "The fool hath said in his heart, there is a God," instead of, "The fool hath said in his heart, there is no God." Can you see the problem? Yeah, crazy. Who'd have thunk? All right. Isn't that great? We can all go home now. All right. Heroes from the Old Testament. Well, we have some heroes and we have some heroic stories. So today's first heroic story is going to come from Numbers 21. Numbers 21. And I'm titling this section, "Quit Your Belly Aching." Okay, I'm stealing this from my wife, Lori. She made a sign that says, "Quit your belly aching," put it above the it's not spelled the way she had it, but it's the best I could do. So, this is great to rub in the face of those who complain and gripe a lot at home. So, teens, you could get an earful from your parents, or parents, you can get an earful from your teens. It works two ways. But quit your belly aching. The story is this. There's a problem with the Israelites. They got all grumpy. Has anybody read through some of the Old Testament stories and just read through, like especially the book of Judges, Chronicles, and all that stuff? And the pattern that I saw, if you read it like a book, it's very exciting. If you read it like you have to study it, it can be really heavy. We had to do that in Bible college. You had to read it the whole thing through before the first semester was over and all that weird stuff. And it was good, but you're doing it out of duty. But if you read it like a novel, you can pick up so much more. And one pattern I picked up was Israelites were very much like you and I. Up and down, up and down. You know, we're complaining to God, and then next minute they're all, they're all happy. And then they complain to God again, and it's like ups and downs of life. I don't know if you ever have that, but Israel made a mistake. It says Numbers 21, but I don't. There it is. Numbers 21, verse 4 on. Okay, then the people of Israel set out from Mount Hor, taking the road to the Red Sea, to go around the land of Edom. But the people grew impatient along the way. Does that ever happen in this generation? Yes. And they began to murmur against God and Moses. All right? They complained, "Why have you brought us out of Egypt to die here in the wilderness?" They complained, which is not the first time they did that. So there was nothing to eat. There is nothing to eat and nothing to drink, and we hate this wretched manna. Okay, moms and dads, how many times have you heard this kind of complaint from your kids? Oh yeah. Maybe you can learn from this. All right. So the Lord sent poisonous snakes among them, and many of them were bitten and died. Then the people came to Moses and cried out, "We've sinned by speaking against the Lord, against you. Pray that the Lord will take away the snakes." So Moses prayed for the people. Then the Lord said, "Make a replica of the poisonous snake and attach it to the top of a pole. Those who are bitten will live if they simply look at it." That's it. That's the story. How's that for a weirdo story in the middle of the Bible? Snakes, quit your belly aching. They complained. There's a grace lesson in this particular story. What did the people have to do in order to be healed? Just look at the serpent. Did God deliver them from the snakes? No, God brought the snakes. He brought the calamity. He taught them a lesson. I think many of the stories of the Old Testament are written for your benefit and my benefit today. To see the pattern. God is love. We have to start with that. If we don't start off with the fact that God is love, we're going to read a lot of these stories with a ticked-off God lens. We're going to perceive God as a Jekyll and Hyde, untrustworthy. We can't cozy up to him at all because he might flip if we do something bad. And I don't understand how a lot of this happens in the Old Testament, but I've seen through a grace lens the love of God in even all these stories. God taking care of people. In our cleaned up culture, in Western civilization, We're pretty tidy. We want things clean and neat, and we don't want to hear about really gross things. We want it tidied up and say it nicely so I don't have to get all queasy, right? When we read the news, except lately, it's been really bad for news stories, and they highlight some unnecessary news in the reporting. But in the Bible, they didn't have it all cleaned up. They saw life as it was. It was rough and painful. They saw people where they were at. You get to see people where you're at in your jobs. Some of you work with people in difficult lifestyles. And it's painful to see them make tough decisions, bad decisions, on and on, over and over and over again. But here we see something else happening. God actually did something amazing. Not only did he bring the snakes in to teach them a lesson, but he provided the staff with a snake on it. And by the way, what is our international medical symbol? It's the stake, the pole with the snake on it. You know, where did they get that from? Well, I don't know. Where did they got it from? So anyway, some are saying they did not use it from the Bible, but you're right. All right, let's get to the next juicy one. Getting pegged. Judges 4. I'll just tell you a story. It is there. You can look it up yourself. This is the other gross one, but it's kind of cool. Israel did wrong in the sight of God again. They messed up. So God sent an army, allowed them to be taken over and put under slavery, and then they cried out to God. And God again comes along and said, okay, I'll rescue my people. Now, who's the flipping one? Is it the people going up and down, or is it God doing this? I don't know. Maybe he loves the people so much, he's just letting them. You could see it the other way, but it's the people. They're the ones flip-flopping. God's grace is consistent the whole time through. So here we have kind of a brutal story. I was reading through a list of gruesome deaths in the Bible. I know, light reading. And so this one came along. And it turns out God went to to Deborah. That's who the story is from. Deborah was a judge in Israel, and she set up her little booth under the tree of Deborah. And people went out there, and they had cases to bring to her. What do I do about this? Lawsuits, you name it. She was the judge to help people make decisions for the whole area. Well, she called a particular guy and said, hey, God's going to give you victory. Go attack this army. And so the guy says, I'm not going if you're not going. And she said, fine. You're not going to get any credit for it. I'll go, but you're not going to get any credit. The credit will be given to a woman. He said, fine. So off he went. They won the battle. They beat him big time. Well, the king that they were after escaped. Ended up at this tent. And there was a woman there named, anybody know her name? Pardon? Jael. That's right. Jael. That's right. Judges 4. Here we go. 1 second. By the way, this falls on the heels of Ehud's story. Remember last week? Yeah. All right. If you don't know, then look up the Ehud story. It's a kind of colorful. What's the lady's name? Jabin. Nope, I'm wrong. Hang on. 1 second. Sorry. Thank you. You guys are good. Jael. Jael. Barak comes looking for this guy. But before that happens, Jael invites the runaway king into her tent. He was exhausted. He said, please give me water. So she gives him warm milk and makes it all nice for him, covers him up in a cozy blanket, go to sleep now. And he said, you know what? Stay at the tent door. If somebody comes and asks if anybody's here, you say, no, there isn't. Okay. So he conks out because he's exhausted. She takes a tent peg while he's sleeping, puts it on the temple of his head, big hammer, right through into the ground. Yeah. She kills him. Well, Barak comes looking for this. I know, it's just a really good pre-lunch story. Barak comes looking for this guy, and Jael comes out and says, let me show you. I have him right here. And she shows him what really happened. It was confirmed that a woman delivered the final blow, which back in those days was not a good thing, especially for guys, because they were all so chauvinistic in their mindsets. But a powerful story of God using whoever he wants to create his victory for those who are oppressing. You and I are oppressed in different ways. Sometimes we're oppressed for our faith. Sometimes we're oppressed because people are just not fair. Our jobs, none of us have the perfect job. I love my job, but all of us can find elements that we don't like. But God can use those things. He has provided you what you have right now. There's another really cool story in the book of Esther. For such a time as this. Go to Esther chapter 6. And by the way, I'm ripping through a bunch of stories because I had like a whole bunch of these old guys from the Old Testament I wanted to zip through, but it would take too long just do one Sunday on each one. And, you know, it's like the last one. The story, the cool part's only really short, so gotta keep going here. For such a time as this is Esther. How many know the story of Esther, Mordecai, and Haman? A few of you. Okay, not everybody. This is a really, really powerful story. I'll give you the short version. Esther, who is a Jew, becomes a queen in a foreign land. She's a servant, was a servant girl in the town. She became a queen as a Jew. Some guy named Haman comes along, and he wants to destroy all the Jews. So he gets the king to sign a decree that all Jews must be killed. Somehow he tricked him into it. Well, the king signed it, and now Mordecai, who is the queen's relative, he's usually sitting at the city gates, kind of like a city leader and a helper, a really wise guy, very well respected by the king. He's out there. He's now dressed in these sackcloths. The queen hasn't heard what's happened yet. She comes out. She calls for an update. What are you looking so sad for? Why are you wearing sackcloth? What's with the ashes? He said, don't you know? We're going to be killed. Do something. Go and find out from the king what's going to happen. Like, you got to save us. And she said, who am I? I can't do this. No, don't make me do it. So, however she did it, okay. And Mordecai says to her, perhaps you becoming queen was for such a time as this. For this very moment. This is why God may have brought you here. Do you ever read through stories in the Old Testament and wonder, why are they even mentioned? Or they're mentioned, but there's no reason they're mentioned at all. There's so many untold stories there just with just a name thrown out there. The queen could have been that. But God had set her up to become the deliverer of the Jews. And the story ends beautifully. Mordecai he hears what the plot tells the king. This is pre-judgment on the Jews. He had saved the king's life from a planned assassination. And so now he gets to be recognized by the king. At the end of the story, Haman is trying to kill Mordecai. He even built gallows for him to take him out. Things got twisted. And at just the right time, Mordecai was hailed through the city, hailed as the one who did a great thing. Because the king got bored one night and read through some old records and realized, hey, we didn't highlight this guy. We didn't thank him. Well, let's walk him through. He called in Haman and said, hey, Haman, what do we do with somebody who's served the king so well and, been so good? And, dress him up in the greatest clothes, thinking of himself. Totally. Walk him through. Hail so-and-so. Like, just broadcast his name all the way through. And the king said, that's great. Go do that for Mordecai. What? So he had to humbly proclaim Mordecai's name through the city. When the story finished playing out, and the Jews were given permission to defend themselves, and their lives were spared because of what the queen did, the king found out that Haman had built gallows for Mordecai, and the tables were turned, and Haman was hung. He was finished on the very gallows he set up. We like those kind of stories because it's like this justice wins out thing, and the Bible does have them. They're cool. Can you sit where you are right now with your life and think to yourself, can I say, for such a time as this, is it okay that I am just where I am now? God, I want to do more. I want to be a hero. I want to do great things for you. We might be thinking that. But are you okay with just being where you are, being loved? That's it. You don't get to do anything more great for God. Are you okay with that? Not really. Get great with it. Because if God wants to, He will, and He can use you. But the place of humble submission to God, by saying, hey, for such a time as this, if you want to use me right now for this time, for this job, for this period of time, it doesn't mean it's here forever, but for this time, I'm good with that. It's okay. Use me any way you want. But I think He'll make it clear to you if He's going to use you in that place. It's not just going to go running around. You're not going to run around not being fulfilled by your job. Christ will fulfill you with what He wants to do and has done in you already. Are you good with that? Let's take a look at one more story. And you know you're stubborn when? This is the first time, if you have a King James Bible, it's almost a bad word being used to describe a donkey. Balaam. This is another stubborn story. I don't want to take too long on this. We're just about done. This particular story, a donkey speaks to a man who is stubborn. Balaam goes off riding on a donkey, and he's been hired to bring curses against someone. The Lord is upset with him and sends an angel to block the path so the donkey can't go. The donkey sees the angel. Balaam does not. So he's whipping his donkey. He's kicking it, spurring it, screaming, cussing. Have you ever seen somebody cuss and swear in a car? You just look over and go, you can see there's just that's what was going on here. Okay? Somebody wasn't doing the roundabout right. They didn't stop right. They cut all the excuses. Like, we're talking, this guy is ticked. Donkey won't go. He's kicking and screaming. The donkey, what does he say? You've got to read it because it's just too funny. Okay, here we go. Balaam and his donkey. Then the Lord caused the donkey to speak. Verse 28. What have I done to you that deserves your beating me with these 3 times? Now I wonder what the voice sounded like. Like, I'm thinking of a goat. That won't work. And then, like, really, what a voice. And the stupidest and funniest part is what happens next. Because you've made me look like a fool, Balaam shouted. It tells you how mad he was. He wasn't cluing in the donkey was talking. He spoke back. Like if your dog did that to you, you go, wow, I can get rich, YouTube. Oh my goodness. The donkey talked back. Because you made me look like a fool, Balaam shouted. If I had a sword with me, I'd kill you. Then the donkey speaks again. But I am the same donkey you always ride on, the donkey answered. Have I ever done anything like this before? No, admitted Balaam. Like this, imagine the conversation, okay? Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes. Ooh. And he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the roadway with a drawn sword in his hand. Balaam fell face down on the ground before him. Which would you freak out more on? The donkey talking or an angel in front of you? Like he's getting double whammy here. Like this is a serious vision, okay? Why did you beat your donkey those 3 times? The angel of the Lord demanded. So not only did the donkey ask, the angel said the same thing. That's really funny. Then the angel of the Lord demanded, I have come to block your way because you are stubbornly resisting me. 3 times the donkey saw me and shied away. Otherwise, I would certainly have killed you by now and spared the donkey. Then Balaam confessed to the angel of the Lord, I have sinned. I did not realize you were standing in the road to block my way. I will go back home if you are against my going. Wow. Here's what I want you to see in this story. How many times do you have to kick your donkey to try and get your needs met your way? How many times do you have to try and help God out on this path you think God's called you on? But I know God spoke to me. I know He said I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that or I get to do this. Are you really, really sure? And I'm not questioning God speaking to you. Here's what I'm going to question you on. What if God planted that thought to get you to a place because there's no other way you get to this place, and now he's going to redirect your path? He's getting your attention. He might redirect you. Are you okay with that? You're not seeing the whole picture. Who does? Your Heavenly Papa sees the whole picture. If you're at a roadblock right now of something you can't accomplish and you're trying your darndest, man, you're slaving really hard. You're fighting hard. You're doing all the work. Oh, I'm working for God, trying to get this to happen because I think he gave me this vision. And he might have. But are you okay if he takes it away? Are you okay if he says, okay, we've accomplished for such a time as this. We're now done this. We're moving on to the next. Are you okay with that? Who's in charge of your life? Your Heavenly Father is. Does he need your help in guiding your path? No. He does not need your help. But sometimes we want to help him up because we've locked into a plan, a goal. We're so goal-oriented, we've got to see that. Once it's in our minds, I'm really bad for that for some issues in my life. Especially if I lose something, I got to find it, or single-minded. Lori doesn't know. I never do that at home, do I, Lori? All right, never mind. Nevertheless, if God has given you a vision, a goal, and you're having a hard time completing it, you were never meant to complete it if he doesn't do it himself. Just like your kids, when they're enjoying life, playing on the trampoline, swimming in the pool, having the friends over, doing the road hockey, doing all their stuff, and they're just enjoying life, come in, table set. Lori keeps saying, what is this, a hotel? It's what it feels like, because we do everything for them. And all they do is complain, or come late and don't help, and we have all of our little complaints, and they're real. But the faith of the child is so simple. He's just resting, and mommy and daddy they're playing the calendar better than they can. They don't know what's happening in 2 weeks or in the middle of summer. Your Heavenly Papa does. And today, you can leave here knowing he's got your back, he's got your front. You can rest in him, not trying to help him out, and just be loved by him. Can you do that today? Just be loved by your Heavenly Papa? Some of us are so well grounded in churchianity. We know what we have to do. We got to do this ministry, we got to do that, we got blah, blah. We're so regimented in what we think we have to do for God. And all he wants is for you to receive his love. He'll tell you what to do when the time has come. You will be busy in grace, but it starts from rest. We work from rest. We don't rest from work, self-effort work. He is our strength. He is our mind, our will. He's the chooser, the determiner of the things that we get excited about. If he's planted a passion in you, run with the passion for the time. Be prepared. He may yank it. Oh, but it'd be so embarrassing because I told everybody I was going to do this. So what? Do you want the appeasement of man? Are you okay to walk with your Papa? Rest in him today. Don't be stubborn. You never know what can come along. You never know.